Have you ever felt that the world seems too intense for you? That you perceive emotions, energies, and nuances that others seem to miss? If so, perhaps you are what Carl Jung would call a sensitive soul. Today, we're going to explore together what this really means and why, according to Jung, this sensitivity is not a weakness, but your greatest strength. When was the last time you truly stopped to listen to what your soul needs? Not what society expects from you, not what your parents or friends suggest, but what deeply resonates with your most authentic self. If you're a sensitive soul, you've probably spent much of your life adapting to a world that seems designed for people with thicker skin. Carl Jung, that brilliant explorer of the human psyche, understood this dynamic perfectly. He observed that many people walk through life disconnected from their true selves, following patterns and external expectations that have little to do with who they really are. And this is particularly painful for sensitive souls. For Jung, sensitivity was not a characteristic that should be overcome or hardened. On the contrary, he saw it as a powerful tool of perception, a more direct connection to the collective unconscious, to that universal wisdom that we all carry within, but that few manage to hear clearly. The problem is that we live in a world that seems to value just the opposite: toughness, competitiveness, the ability to move forward regardless of who is left behind. A world where showing vulnerability is confused with weakness, where sensitivity is interpreted as fragility. And it's there, in that contradiction, where many sensitive souls begin to doubt themselves, to repress themselves, to try to fit into a mold that was never designed for them. Does this sound familiar? Perhaps you've spent years trying to toughen up, silencing that inner voice that tells you there's something more, something different, a different way of being in the world. Perhaps you've come to believe that there's something wrong with you, that you're too sensitive, too emotional, too introspective. But Jung invites us to consider a revolutionary possibility. What if that sensitivity were exactly what the world needs? What if instead of an obstacle, it were your greatest gift? Think about it for a moment. In an increasingly disconnected world, more superficial, more immersed in constant distractions, the ability to feel deeply, to perceive subtleties, to connect with the essence of things is not just valuable, it's essential. Sensitive souls are like antennas that pick up frequencies that others cannot perceive, and that perception can be the bridge to a more conscious, more compassionate, more authentic humanity. However, to be able to offer that gift to the world, you must first reconcile with your sensitive nature. And this begins with a fundamental act: choosing yourself, choosing to honor your sensitivity instead of repressing it, choosing to listen to your inner voice instead of drowning it out with external noise, choosing to live according to your truth, even when that truth doesn't fit with others' expectations. Jung expressed it profoundly when he said, "Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes." This awakening is the first step in the sensitive soul's journey toward authenticity. But this journey is not without challenges. Perhaps the greatest is confronting your shadow. Jung defined the shadow as those parts of ourselves that we have repressed, denied, or ignored because they don't fit with the image we want to project. For sensitive souls, the shadow often includes the fear of rejection, the fear of not being enough, the belief that there is something fundamentally wrong with their way of being. Integrating these shadows doesn't mean eliminating them, but recognizing them, embracing them, understanding that they are part of you and that they have valuable lessons to teach you. It's a process that requires courage, but that brings with it an incomparable freedom. Because when you stop fighting against your shadows, when you stop judging your sensitivity as a weakness, you discover an inner power that has always been there, waiting to be recognized. Imagine for a moment what it would be like to live without that constant internal struggle. Imagine waking up each morning, and instead of preparing to survive in a world that seems too noisy, too fast, too superficial, you could receive the day as an opportunity to explore, to feel, to connect from your authentic, sensitive essence. What would change in your life if, instead of seeing your sensitivity as a burden, you began to treat it as your superpower? Because, in many ways, that's exactly what it is. Sensitive souls have a unique capacity for empathy, for compassion, for perceiving nuances and complexities that others overlook. In a world that constantly reduces everything to black and white, sensitive souls can see and feel all the colors of the emotional and spiritual spectrum. But to access this gift, you must first allow yourself to be who you truly are. You must stop trying to fit into a world that constantly asks you to be less sensitive, less emotional, less you. As Jung said, the acceptance of oneself is the essence of the moral problem and the epitome of a whole outlook on life. This acceptance begins with small acts of courage. Perhaps it means establishing clearer boundaries with people who drain your energy. Maybe it involves giving yourself permission to withdraw and recharge when you need it, without feeling guilty about it. It could be as simple as dedicating time each day to activities that nourish your sensitive spirit. Contemplation, art, nature, genuine connection. When you begin to honor your sensitivity in this way, something extraordinary happens. You begin to attract people and situations that resonate with your true essence. It's as if the universe responds to your authenticity, creating a space where you can flourish just as you are. Jung called this synchronicity, that mysterious connection between your inner world and external events that seems to transcend mere coincidence. Relationships especially transform when you choose yourself. You no longer settle for superficial connections or those that require you to compromise your essence. You begin to recognize other souls that vibrate at your same frequency, people with whom you don't need to pretend or diminish your light. And though these connections may be fewer in number, they are infinitely deeper and more nourishing. This doesn't mean you should isolate yourself from the world or surround yourself only with people who think and feel exactly like you. On the contrary, your sensitivity allows you to build bridges, create understanding where there was division before, bring nuance to polarized conversations. But now you do it from a place of inner strength, not from the desperate need for approval or belonging. Jung firmly believed that this process of individuation, of becoming who you truly are, not only benefits you, but has a profound impact on the world. He wrote, "The meeting with oneself belongs to the more unpleasant things that may be avoided, as long as one possesses an environment and can stick to it. But if one can no longer get away from oneself, then there is certainly the possibility of finding something valuable in this confrontation. That valuable something is your unique gift, your unrepeatable contribution to the human collective. For sensitive souls, this contribution is often related to their ability to perceive what others don't see, to feel what others don't feel, to keep alive the deeper dimension of human experience. In a world increasingly automated, more oriented toward efficiency and productivity, sensitive souls remind us that life is also about beauty, meaning, connection, depth. But to offer this gift, you must first nurture it in yourself. You must create sacred spaces in your life where your sensitivity can express itself freely without judgment or restrictions. These spaces can be physical, a quiet corner in your home, a garden, a studio, or temporal. Moments dedicated to meditation, creativity, contemplation. The essential thing is that you recognize that your need for these spaces is not a whim or a luxury. It's a fundamental necessity for your well-being as a sensitive soul. As Jung said, "In the last analysis, we count for something only because of the essential we embody. And if we do not embody that, life is wasted." This is perhaps the most important lesson Jung has for sensitive souls, that your path doesn't have to look like anyone else's, that your rhythm, your needs, your ways of processing the world are valid precisely because they are yours. That there is no universal standard you must adjust to, especially when that standard was created without considering the rich diversity of human experience. What would happen if, instead of measuring your life according to external parameters, success, productivity, popularity, you began to evaluate it according to its authenticity, according to how much space you allow yourself to truly be you, according to how faithfully you are listening to and honoring your inner voice? Jung offers us a revolutionary perspective. Your life is the fruit of your own doing, and you have no cause for anything but gratitude and rejoicing, and whatever you're dissatisfied with, you can change if you want to. In other words, the path of the sensitive soul is not one of isolation or deprivation, but of authentic fulfillment. It's not about renouncing the world, but about being in it in a way that honors your essential nature. It's about recognizing that your sensitivity is a gift, not just for you, but for all who have the privilege of connecting with you. How would your life be if you stopped fighting against your sensitivity and began to flow with it? If instead of seeing it as an obstacle, you recognized it as your inner compass, guiding you toward experiences, relationships, and creations that resonate with your true self? For Jung, this was the true purpose of life, not to conform, not to blindly adapt, but to individuate, to fully become who you truly are, with all your complexities, contradictions, and unique gifts. He wrote, "Individuality is the only thing that matters." This process of individuation is especially crucial for sensitive souls, who have often received messages that they should change, adapt, be less intense, or less perceptive. Jung invites us to consider the radical possibility that your sensitivity is not an error to be corrected, but the very key to your purpose in this world. What would happen if you began to treat it as such? If, instead of apologizing for how you feel the world, you began to honor that sensitivity as your unique window into human experience? It's not an easy path. Living as a sensitive soul, in a world that often values toughness, requires courage, requires establishing clear boundaries, requires a constant practice of self-care. But the benefits are immeasurable. When you honor your sensitivity, everything in your life begins to align in a more authentic way. The relationships you maintain are deeper and more nourishing. The work you choose is more aligned with your essential values. The decisions you make reflect your inner truth, not external expectations. Jung expressed it beautifully. Know yourself. If you know yourself, you will also know the gods and the mysteries of the universe. For the sensitive soul, this self-knowledge is both a challenge and a gift, for your sharpened perception allows you to see more clearly both the lights and the shadows within you. This journey towards self-knowledge has no final destination. It's an ongoing process, a constant dance between your inner world and the outer one, between the conscious and the unconscious, between who you are and who you are in the process of becoming. As Jung said, "I have realized that all that a man does is like a drop in the ocean, but if he didn't do it, the ocean would have one drop less." Each time you choose to honor your sensitivity, each time you allow yourself to feel deeply in a world that asks you to be superficial, you are contributing your unique and irreplaceable drop to the ocean of human experience. And perhaps, just perhaps, those drops, those moments of authenticity, those acts of sensitive courage are exactly what our world needs now more than ever. In a time characterized by disconnection, polarization, and superficiality, sensitive souls remind us that there is another way to be in the world, a more conscious way, more compassionate, more connected with the depths of the human being and the cosmos. Jung believed that each individual has a unique role to play in the evolution of collective consciousness. For sensitive souls, this role often involves keeping alive the deeper dimension of human experience, reminding us that we are more than consumers or producers, that we are beings with immeasurable inner richness, capable of perceiving beauty, meaning, and connection in the most everyday experiences. But to fulfill this role, you must first allow yourself to be who you truly are. You must stop apologizing for your sensitivity and begin to value it as the precious gift it is. As Jung said, the greatest tragedy of the common man is that he sacrifices his creative talents on the altar of adaptation. Don't allow your sensitivity to be sacrificed on that altar. Don't allow a world too noisy, too fast, too superficial to convince you that there's something wrong with you. On the contrary, recognize that your way of perceiving and processing the world is exactly what you need to fulfill your unique purpose. This doesn't mean the path is easy. Sensitive souls face particular challenges in a world that often seems designed for people with thicker skin. You may feel overwhelmed by the intensity of your emotions, exhausted by stimuli that others barely notice, confused by your tendency to absorb the energies and moods of those around you. Jung understood these challenges and offers us a transformative perspective. These are not signs of weakness or defect, but manifestations of a more expanded consciousness, of a deeper connection with the collective unconscious. He wrote, "A man is ill, but the illness is nature's attempt to heal him." For the sensitive soul, this encounter with one's own soul occurs almost constantly. You feel more, perceive more, process more deeply. And this can be both your greatest challenge and your greatest strength. The challenge lies in learning to navigate this intensity without it overwhelming you, in establishing healthy boundaries without losing your essential openness, in taking care of yourself without closing off to the world. Jung offers us valuable clues for this balance. He believed in the importance of personal rituals, of creating spaces and practices that help us process our experiences and maintain a healthy connection with our depths. For the sensitive soul, these rituals are especially important. Moments of silence, of reflection, of connection with nature or with forms of creative expression that allow you to process the richness of your inner life. He also emphasized the importance of dreams as windows to the unconscious, as messages from your deeper self that can guide you on your path. Sensitive souls often have a particularly rich dream life, and paying attention to these messages can be a powerful tool for your self-knowledge and growth. But perhaps the most valuable advice Jung has for sensitive souls is to remind us that we are not alone. Although you may sometimes feel like a stranger in a world too noisy or superficial, there are others who share your sensitivity, your depth, your way of perceiving the world. Finding these kindred spirits, creating communities where your sensitivity is valued instead of judged, can be profoundly healing. Jung wrote, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." For the sensitive soul, these transformations can be especially powerful, as your capacity for deep connection allows you to create relationships that go beyond the superficial, that touch the essential. In these authentic connections, you discover that your sensitivity is not a burden to be borne in solitude, but a gift to be shared, celebrated, honored. You discover that there are others who see the world as you do, who feel with the same intensity, who value depth and authenticity above appearances. And in this mutual recognition, you find not only companionship, but validation for your unique way of being in the world. As Jung said, "Loneliness does not come from having no people around, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to oneself." When you find those who can receive your truth, your depth, your sensitivity without judging it or trying to change it, you experience a profound liberation. You no longer have to hide, diminish yourself, pretend to be less than you are. You can simply be. And in that authentic being, you discover a joy and a freedom that no mask or adaptation could ever provide. This is perhaps the greatest gift Jung has for sensitive souls, the validation that your path, though different from the majority, is deeply valuable and necessary. That your sensitivity is not an error to be corrected, but a gift to be cultivated. That your perceptions, though sometimes distancing you from the conventional, bring you closer to the essential. And in a world that seems increasingly disconnected from the essential, your presence, your unique way of feeling, of perceiving, of being in the world, is more necessary than ever. As Jung said, the most important is that man should be able to live his life with dignity and meaning. If this prevails, only then can we speak of adaptation, mental health, and harmony. For the sensitive soul, This dignity and meaning come from honoring your essential nature, from resisting the pressure to harden or simplify yourself, from remaining true to your deeper perception, even when the world invites you to superficiality. It's not an easy path, but it's yours. And in that recognition, in that conscious choice to walk your own path, you find a strength that no external armor could ever provide. So, if you are a sensitive soul, if you feel the world with an intensity that sometimes seems too much to bear, remember Jung's words. Your vision will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakes. This awakening is your calling, your purpose, your gift. Don't reject it. Don't apologize for it. Embrace it, cultivate it, share it with a world that, though it may not always recognize it, desperately needs it. And if you ever doubt, if you ever feel alone in your sensitivity, remember that there are others like you. That throughout history, sensitive souls have been the artists, the visionaries, the guardians of human depth, those who have kept alive the connection with the sacred in times of materialism and superficiality. You are part of that lineage. Your sensitivity has purpose, has value, has power. It's not something to overcome, but something to honor. It's your bridge to a more authentic, richer life, more connected with the essential. It's your unique way of being human, of contributing, of transforming the world from the inside out. As Jung said, what you resist persists, what you accept transforms you. Accept your sensitivity, embrace your depth, honor your unique perception. And in that act of self-acceptance, you'll discover not only personal freedom, but the ability to offer the world a gift that only you, with your particular sensitivity, can give. And the world, though it may not always know it, is waiting for that gift. It's waiting for your courage to be who you truly are, to feel deeply in a time of numbness, to connect authentically in an era of superficial relationships, to keep alive the sacred dimension of existence.
If this message has resonated with you, if you've felt that deep recognition that comes when someone names something you've always known but perhaps never heard expressed, I'd like to ask you something. Share this video with another sensitive soul who might need to hear these words. Leave a comment sharing your own experience as a being who feels the world intensely. Join this community of people who are choosing to honor their sensitivity instead of repressing it. Together, we can create a space where sensitive souls don't just survive, but flourish. Where your emotional intensity is seen not as a weakness, but as a strength. Where your deep perception is valued as the precious gift that it is. And remember, as Jung said, the acceptance of oneself is the essence of the moral problem and the epitome of a whole outlook on life. When you fully accept yourself as the sensitive soul that you are, you not only transform yourself, but contribute to the transformation of a world that desperately needs more depth, more authenticity, more heart. You are not alone. Your sensitivity has purpose. Your way of being in the world is necessary, valuable, powerful. And though the path may not always be easy, each step you take toward accepting your sensitive nature is a step toward a more authentic, fuller life, more aligned with your inner truth. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your courage to be who you truly are in a world that often asks you to be less. Thank you for keeping alive the deep dimension of human experience. Your presence matters. Your sensitivity matters. You matter, exactly as you are. Don't forget to subscribe for more content that nourishes your sensitive soul, and hit the notification bell to be notified when I publish new videos. Share this message with those who feel like you, and leave me a comment telling me about your experience as a sensitive soul in this world. Together, we're creating a community where your sensitivity is not just accepted, but celebrated as the precious gift it truly is. I'll see you in the next video. In the meantime, remember Jung's words. What you resist persists. What you accept transforms you. Accept your sensitivity and discover the transformative power that has been within you all along.